Welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the Internet's most passionate wine program, and we are live here at the Roger Smith Hotel. Clap it up for the Roger Smith Hotel. On the corner of 47 and Lex at the Lab Gallery. They tricked it out. They did an amazing job by it. Mott, did you see this logo in the background? I mean, this is much better than my chalkboard in my office. And we're sitting here with lovely guests that we're going to be able to hear today, which is very exciting in comparison to yesterday. And we're going to be talking about New Zealand wine. Let me say it this way. I think New Zealand wine as a whole is actually slightly overrated. I think there's a lot of people that think New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is like the second coming. And though it's very exciting, and I'm a fairly solid fan, I think it's become a little bit pineapple juicy lately, and there's a lot of crap out there. I don't know why I air quoted crap. Let me redo that. There's just a lot of crap out there. But there's also a lot of interesting opportunities out there. Ooh, actually, let me not rewind, but there's an Australian wine as well, so it's not just a New Zealand show. 2 New Zealand whites and an Australian red. But let me tell you this about New Zealand whites. I actually think the underlying opportunity in New Zealand is in Riesling, and we have one here today, so I'm excited about trying that as well, seeing what that brings to the table. But you can't deny the price points. Dollar for dollar, the value coming out of New Zealand right now is exciting, it is intriguing, it's interesting, because under 15 bones, they come out consistently and many times somewhat deliver. Many times somewhat deliver. So I'm very excited about trying these 3 wines here today, and let's just get right into it. There's no really reason to wait, Mott. No corks today to throw at you, Mott. So the Jets lost yesterday, but we didn't have our 2 best defensive players, so I'm just saying. Anyway, Alan Scott, 2007 Marlboro Riesling. This wine rolls in at about $13 US, and I'm excited to see what's going on here. And so let me pour some for the lovely ladies to my left and right, and then dudes, you can just do your thing, pass it around. So again, Riesling, I think there's a lot of intrigue going on with Riesling in general. It's a grape that I'm very passionate about. Way too many people think it's foofy girl stuff. On the flip side, the most serious of wine drinkers, when you get into the wine nerd caves of New York City here with the sommeliers, they know that Riesling is legit, very serious stuff, probably the most complex and has the most upside of any white wine in the world. Really, the wines that we're most excited about is, from Austria and Germany, but I do believe that New Zealand has an opportunity to do something, and the Alan Scott 07 Marlboro Riesling will be our test for us today. So, gals and guys, please give this wine a sniffy sniff. Now get your nose completely in there. Don't be scared. I want your nose, no, sir, third to left. I want your nose like this. I want it touching your face, because you're going to be able to get a lot more out of the nose. So the first thing I pick up on this nose is a little bit like a petrol, like tire smell. You get this really kind of plastic rubber kind of thing going on. Almost like, remember the old pink rubber ball?
Yeah.
Like the Super Bounce? I get a little bit of that kind of on the nose. There's also a little subtle kind of sugar cane and like honeycomb cereal component on the nose. You catch that? Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it's almost like you took your rubber pink ball and threw it into your honeycomb cereal, and you actually shred a little sugar cane on top of it. So that kind of nose. Now we're tasting this at room temperature. Let's give it a whirl. Let's try it. So, what do you guys think? Let's go around the table a little bit. Now remember, I did not make this wine. I have no emotional attachment to this wine. I want to know what your palate thinks of this juice. Go.
I think it's not overly sweet.
Don't talk to me, talk to the maniacs.
Some Rieslings tend to be like, and that's I think how Riesling gets the girly reputation, that it's really overly sweet, but it really hits the side of the tongue.
The acidity?
Yeah, the acidity.
Yeah.
I think the acidity is also on the side of the tongue, but I don't think it's as sharply focused as a German or an Austrian Riesling.
Okay.
Pineapple.
Yeah.
Little spritz.
Cool.
I thought it was a little buttery.
Okay.
Just was smooth.
Okay.
I'm actually liking the body of this a little bit. It's a little on the lighter side, but I think my wife would definitely enjoy it.
I like the acid, and I definitely get the pineapple.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. That's what I picked up.
Yeah.
I didn't pick that up on the nose originally, but I picked it up after I tasted it.
Well, I'm a girly girl, and Rieslings are actually my favorite white wines, and I have to say I didn't really enjoy this one too much.
Because?
Found it a little too dry, a little too
Yeah.
tart.
So I think that's really the theme of this wine, right? Some people like the fact that it's not too sweet. Some people dislike the fact that it's not too sweet. So we're clearly seeing that scope that we always talk about, which is everybody has their own palate. Dissecting this wine from my palate, which is really why you watch a show, not these clowns over here, is the fact that I think this wine is pretty well made. I like the acidity. I think it's got a very substantial balance to it. I am a fan of pineapple, so that flavor to me is a good thing. But like for all the people that are outside watching, if they don't like pineapple, then they're not gonna love it, right? So it really comes down to your own palate, but it's well made, and that's a very good side. I don't think it's seeing any oak really, so the butter thing is interesting because I don't think it's coming from the oakiness, but I also somewhat taste it. I wouldn't say it's butter, but it's almost like the can't believe it's not butter spray. It's like one little, not a whole butter, like a little bit of a spray, which is kind of intriguing. That gives it almost a little bit of a creaminess on the back end, almost like a pineapple dessert in comparison to actual pineapple. I think it's a solid wine. I'm going to score it 89 points. At 13 bones, I think it's very solid. And I think that the far majority of wine drinkers out there, because it's not one way or the other, will probably find things they like about it, but that indifferent aspect may also hurt it. It just comes down to your palate. All right, let's move on. We're moving on to a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, which is really, did I get you wet on that little spoon? I'm a little sorry about that. Mott, what we have here is the Gießen 2008 Marlboro Sauvignon Blanc at $11 US. Sauvignon Blanc is definitely the grape varietal that New Zealand is known for. More and more, it's emerging as a Pinot Noir nation, but Gießen is a producer that I think a lot of people have either seen or tried. It's a widely distributed New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. It's a producer that has gotten consistent 88 to 90 point scores through the years, so it's definitely a winery that I think has caught a lot of attention. And I'm excited about trying their 08 effort. I think a lot of the 08 Sauvignon Blancs that I've had from New Zealand so far have been fairly interesting. And let's see what happens here. So I'm going to wait till this gets passed around. Sorry for spilling the wine on you.
It's okay.
I apologize. Did somebody take my Jets bucket? That's not a good thing. Just leave this right here. Don't touch that ever again. Don't touch the Jets bucket ever again. All right, so I'm going to give this a sniffy sniff while this gets passed around. I'm going to wait to do the synchronized sniffy sniff. All right, very good. Oh, that's a nice healthy pour, young lady. All right, let's give it a sniffy sniff. Now this has a very distinct nose. There's a lot more going on in the nose, I think, if you guys notice in comparison to the last time. What are you guys picking up on the nose? Forest. Citrus.
Grassy, citrusy.
I definitely get grassiness. I mean, I feel like I just mowed my lawn and I'm not that happy about it. So I think there's a clear-cut lawnmower smell here. There's also almost a fig component that I'm picking up on the nose that I think is quite interesting. And again, there's definitely a lemon kind of citrus thing going on. So it's kind of like grass and fig salad with some lemon and lime squeezed on top of it. You know, something you'd probably find at a new age restaurant here in the city. So, no, not as, I agree. Less alcohol in the nose. All right, let's give it a whirl. Okay. I see a lot of head nodding in the right direction.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this does for me what a Riesling usually does for me, and that's like it's tart but a little sweet, full bodied. I really
It is very much like a sweet tart, isn't it?
Yeah.
It tastes exactly like a sweet tart. Yeah.
Definitely sweet tart.
let me jump in real quick. Now, we're drinking these at room temperature. So one thing you should know is if this was cold, you know, that heat that you get a little bit on the back end would probably disappear. But on the flip side, this is why we're picking up so many flavors on the nose and the flavor. We're not having that high school beer rule where, you know, like when you're drinking Meisterbrow and, you know, you don't want to taste it, you get it as cold as you can. Here, we're really tasting the essence. So just keep that in mind. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting that sweet tart a lot, and I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of vibrant.
Yeah, it is vibrant.
I thought it was almost like spicy.
Spiciness.
Spicy.
Yeah. And did you like that?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Like nutmeg or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, that's an interesting flavor profile. I picked that up.
It's the sort of sweet tart, sort of lemony, sour. It was almost like a little snippy apple thing.
Yeah.
It was really grassy for me.
Very grassy.
A lot of grassy wine, but I think the sweet tart was what made it, brought it back into the zone.
Okay. Cool.
I think this is a classic sweeter side of the New Zealand wines. I like it a lot. I like it better than the Bard Scott.
Bart Scott, I like that. Number 57, best linebacker in football. Go ahead.
It's like a delicious Granny Smith apple in a glass.
Very nice. But with a lot of grass.
It's nice.
Sitting in the grass.
So I am probably the least enthusiastic about this wine at the table. Though I am thrilled by the appeal that this wine has to so many different people, I do find it somewhat simplistic. And I do realize that this flavor profile can be replicated for $7 or $8, and that this was, you know, they weren't asked that. They were asked what they thought, and I think it's fine-ish as well. Probably the fact that I've had 3,000 New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs this year, probably, in comparison to the 5 or 3 or 0 or 1 that the lovely people at my table have had. I feel like this falls in the category of nice. And that's about it. I think that the Riesling itself, though maybe not as interesting or as popular on the delicious factor, which at the end of the day, we are drinking it, right? So let's not nerd it up. If you like the way it tastes, great. For me, I think because it's so much my world, I am looking for those nuances, right? Those different things, and I think the Riesling showed a little bit more of that. But this is a nice porch wine, right? This is perfect pool wine. Wednesday, 93 degrees, you're just laying there, you want something cold, you don't even need a corkscrew, you just open it and you just start pounding it. Perfect. But to me, an 85, 86 point wine because of the simplicity of it. But there's nothing wrong with it, and it's okay-ish. And clearly, with a wide range of people, it was very popular, and that makes sense to me. This is why New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is doing well. It's got a popular flavor profile. Yes. You know, it's that little hint of sweetness goes a long way, and I think that appealed to a lot of palates at this table. All right, let's move on. Let's jump to Australia now, the bitter arch rival of New Zealand. This is the 2007 The Stump Jump GSM. It is a blend of 50% Grenache, 29% Shiraz, and 21% Mourvedre. It is $9 US. So it's a very well-priced red wine. And let's see what's going on here. We'll start this way. Now, this comes from Danenberg, which is one of the great producers of wine in Australia, period. They make the Dead Arm Shiraz. They make the Laughing Magpie, the Hermit Crab. They make some of the really interesting wines in Australia, always a consistently high-scored winery, really good value. The Stump Jump itself, as an $8 or $9 wine, has often scored 90 points from Parker and Spectator. So you're talking about a winery with a substantial pedigree of making quality wine at all price points. This wine is in that $10 range. The Dead Arm gets as high as $60, $70 a bottle. You're talking about a winery that pumps out a lot of wine, but often very high quality. And prior vintages of this wine have been wines that I've really enjoyed, and I continue to think are really that perfect hot dog, cheeseburger, pizza with mushrooms and peppers, the only way you should eat pizza kind of wine. So, you know, let's see, 9 bones. Let's sniff it up. Now let's give it a little bit of a whirl here, and let's sniff it up. Let's see if it opens up for us. It does actually. You like the way this smells? Do you find it like floral and perfumey? Or is it more like the candy raspberry stuff going on?
It's more like kind of raspberry.
Yeah. I like the rose petal. I get a kind of like
Yeah.
a real flower sensibility to
I
this
get
one.
that too.
Smoky flower.
I agree, like kind of like burning a rose.
Yeah, burnt
Peppery
rose.
too.
What's that?
Peppery.
Yeah, it has a little slight. You know what? I pick up on the flintiness, that kind of grainy rock granite thing as well. Anything over here? What do you guys think? Do you get the jamminess, like a kind of like a raspberry jam?
Raspberry
yeah.
jam. I was
Yeah.
just thinking that, yeah.
You wish you came out with that earlier, right?
I
You
really
could,
did.
You could have been like the big winner, but you held back because you weren't sure, and then I said it, and you were like, gosh.
But if we were talking about like, nieces and nephews, I could have.
You could have just, you could have brought in, I would have been like, that's right.
I'm holding back, I'm holding back.
All right, let's give this a whirl. Before, well, some of you taste it, but I almost feel, it's okay. I almost feel like this, like, I don't know, because of the bouquet, I feel like I want to drink it. Do you feel like this wine's like, it's subdued, like it's making my mouth a little watery? It's kind of interesting.
It's really opening up to definitely get more of the raspberry notes.
Let's give it a whirl. And smell better and taste. Smell better and taste.
Not crazy, right?
Yeah, a lot more going on than I thought based on the nose.
Okay. And is that a lot of good things or like a lot of bad
More
things?
Grenache, more Vedra than Shiraz.
Very Rhone-like.
Yes.
Yeah, I would.
Is it too hot for you guys on the back end?
I
No?
was
Okay.
expecting to taste more cherry-like, because that's what I really got on the nose, and it just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
Cliff wine.
The
fell off.
finish
Yeah,
was a
the
bit
finish.
disappointing.
Just
Yeah.
fell right off.
Little earthy for me.
Yeah, it does have a gaminess kind of ness to it. I'm going to agree with the crew this time. I think this wine, I find it to be completely disjointed. It feels like it's trying to find its place, right? It feels like, you know how awkward it is when a new kid comes to school in the middle of the school season? Like you're just like, oh, that's a tough scene. That's kind of how I feel about this wine. Like it's here and it's trying to do its thing, but it really has no shot, at least for 2 weeks. So, this wine is really trying to find its place. It's got big fruit, but then it doesn't have big body. It's got some gaminess and earthiness, but it feels kind of artificial. It just feels like it's all over the place. And I really find this to be sad chaos of a wine. It's not finding its point. It's not coming together. The flavors are kind of okay. I'm not appalled by the, flavors. It's not like it's bothering me so much. I don't find a disgust with the flavor that's in my mouth. It does have this really almost, I would say it's one kind of nice niche. It's got this nice strawberry kind of flavoring on the back end, but it kind of tastes like a wax crayon, right? I feel like I just bit a wax strawberry crayon that you're like allowed to eat, that they give to preschoolers because they know they're going to eat it. That kind of thing, which is kind of not that interesting in this wine. Even though at $9 it's not hurting the wallet, it's more or less hurting the fact that we even did it right now. I'm kind of mad at this wine. I apologize to you guys. I'm going to score this wine a 71 and give it a substantial pass. And I really beg you not to buy this wine if you have any interest in the flavors in your mouth.
This kid's getting beat up at school.
Yeah, it's true. It didn't work out. Now listen, it may rally. In 6 months, it might rally and be the coolest kid in town. I just don't see this wine having that much upside. I'm very disappointed. It really tastes borderline fake to me, and that's what bothers me with this wine the most.
Poser wine.
What's that?
Poser wine.
It's a poser wine. That's a good.
Serving this at the local VW for a big gathering.
There's other wines that even at $9 you should be able to find something that has some truth to it, and this wine just doesn't. Question of the day. We're talking a lot about New Zealand and Australia. Very curious. What is the single best New Zealand or Australian wine that you've ever had? Guys, thank you so much for being here. Clap it up for yourselves. You, with a little bit of me, we're changing the wine world.